so he's going to play it for a few seconds. Allow a couple of people to get on the show.
Okay.
And then he will stop it. Hey, y'all, I'm feeling a little rusty. I haven't done this in a couple of months.
I love this.
It will make you want to dance. All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to your favorite community talk show. Let's talk about it. My name is Toni Graves, and you know that I'm your host. And this month, we have a very, very special program. If you don't know, April is National Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And I am so thankful for Miss Carolyn Blue for reaching out to me and letting me know that, hey, at my organization in which I'm employed, we can come on the show and talk about this very important issue. So thank you, Miss Carolyn Blue, for reaching out to me. And as a result of that, we have two very special guests that's going to be talking about sexual assault. And first, I want to introduce you to Miss Glenda. I don't want to split and dissect your last name, but could you give the viewers your last name?
My last name is Schleich.
Schleich. Miss Glenda.
Right.
And then we have Miss Manessa Hardin. And she is a victim of domestic and sexual assault. She's going to share some of her personal testimonies and how she overcame. So I want you to tune in because I believe that these two ladies are going to be able to be a blessing to some of you out there. So before we get started, can you help me welcome our special guest to the show? Thank you again for accepting the invitation. I do apologize. We were going to do the show last week, but some things came up. So thank you for working with me and getting this taken care of before the end of the month. So could you tell us a little bit about your place in employment and what you do?
The PD Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Assault provides services to victims of domestic violence, which includes intimate partner violence, child abuse, and sexual assault. And when we talk about sexual assault, we're not only talking about rape, we're talking about unwanted touching, we're talking about harassment. So we want to be sure that people understand that there is multiple definitions of sexual assault.
And I'm glad that you pointed that out because sometimes people can, mistaken, well, if I didn't have any physical intercourse with you, then I have not violated you.
Right.
So you made it perfectly clear that it entails more than just that.
Right.
That if it's unwanted, period, then the line has been crossed.
Exactly.
Okay? All right.
It is the belief of the PD Coalition that the reduction of family violence, sexual assault, and child abuse is a community concern, and it involves the entire community. And we want to thank you for having us here today. The more people that we can reach out to get the message across, hopefully the reduction will happen.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you said something that really stood out. It's a community issue.
It is.
Because, just because we may not have experienced it personally, but it affects us as a community, as a whole. So can you just tell us a little bit about, how the awareness part of the program came about? Why do you do this every month? Once a year, during the month of April.
April is national, as you stated, and when we adopted it into our organization, we were thankful that it was here because it is a topic that makes people uncomfortable. And what we want to do is to get people to start talking about it. We want to provide prevention techniques, prevention ways that people can avoid it. That is something that we do through our community education program. And we want people to understand, as you stated, that just because I was not raped, I can still be sexually violated. And we want the offenders to understand that it's time that we speak up and talk more about this situation.
Right. Normalizing the situation. Because, many years ago, you just didn't talk about issues like this. Especially when it occurs in your family, in your household. What happens in your house stays in your house. You just don't talk about it. And lots of victims felt that it was their fault. So, it was like the secret, shame, guilt. So we have to normalize these types of conversation, and I'm so thankful that PD Coalition is very present and visible in our community. And so for the people that don't know where you're located, where are you located at in case they want to come and speak with someone about their issues?
Our center is located at 1101 Highway 301 North. It is relatively new. We were at a previous location. We have a 24-hour crisis line number, which is 1-800-273-1820. And it is, as I stated, it's 24 hours, 7 days a week, even holidays. And people say, y'all work during holidays? Of course we do, because crime does not stop.
Right.
Crisis does not stop. And we have people who are experts in working with victims of crime. Many of our sexual assault victims may have experienced it in childhood and something has triggered it. They never received counseling for it, never received any type of support system. So we're here to provide advocacy for the victims of those crimes.
That is so awesome and so needed in our communities. And so now I'm just going to shift to Manessa for a few. I tell you this, I just met her just a few moments ago, but I instantaneously fell in love with her. And she's going to be very transparent with her. And I've already told Miss Glenda that I'll probably have you back on the show because I just think that you're going to be a blessing to so many people. They're going to be more to it. So because we know we have Child Abuse Month that's going to be coming up. So I'll have you on the show more than once. But for the specific purpose of sexual assault, tell us how you got involved with PD Coalition.
So the reason how I got involved was whenever I was 17, I was still a virgin. I was the only one of my friends that was still a virgin. And it was my brother's graduation night. And
if you don't mind, could you just speak up just a little bit? Because I know I'm recording this a distance away. And I don't want anyone to miss this.
Yes. So whenever I was 17, I was still a virgin, like I said. And that was something that I was very proud of. I wanted to keep it until I was married. It was always instilled in me as a child. And so my brother's graduation night, it was one of my brother's really good friends. I've known him for years, and they had had a lot to drink, and I felt safe in my house. I mean, I was like a little sister to everyone. And so that night, he ended up staying at our house, and he came into my room. And this was after I had already gone to sleep. I had left everybody. They had like a graduation party and everything. And so he came in my room and he crawled into my bed and he was like trying to touch me and kiss on my neck. And I'm like, get out. I thought he was just playing around. And then it kind of turned a little bit more cynical. And he climbed on top of me. And all I had on was like panties and a t-shirt. And next thing I know is I could feel my whole body just going numb, and I was like, oh my God, this is it, this is about to happen. And he was really intoxicated, so he ended up getting my panties off, and he was holding me down, and my grandmother was in her room with the door shut. She was asleep. This was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and he ended up pulling my panties down, and he got between my legs, and he penetrated. And I just remember, I can just still remember the pain of the first time, it was just, and I felt so embarrassed because everything that I had worked so hard to keep, and, I had the nickname of like a tease, and it was never, I didn't want to share that part of myself with anybody until I was married, and I sure didn't want to lose it that way. And so, with how intoxicated he was, he ended up, not being able to perform, and so it only lasted a few seconds, but to me it felt like an eternity. And so after that, he kind of just got up, and I went and took a shower, and I was just so embarrassed. I didn't know what to do. I was pretty much in a state of shock.
Did you immediately share that experience with your family?
No.
And why didn't you share that with your
well,
family?
At first, my family, my grandmother, my aunt raised me. And so they'd always said, don't have sex until you're married, and it's a horrible thing. And I was embarrassed. I was scared. I was more scared than anything. And I think that's why I went numb, because fear got instilled in me at a very young age from my past and from my grandparents, my paternal grandparents. They instilled a lot of fear in me. So it's just whenever I get into a fearful situation, I go numb. It's like I go blank.
Did you somehow feel that you were the blame for what happened to you?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it was just, I'd been around these people my whole life. Like, I'd known this guy for years, and for him to feel that comfortable to be that way to me, it was like, was it what I was wearing? Is it how I was acting? I didn't have a single drink. I was 17. I wasn't drinking. I was just hanging out with friends downstairs, and then it ending up being that way. Okay. And then it was like I woke up, and in the morning, it was just, I was a whole different person. I was really embarrassed and just scared.
Did your loved ones notice a difference in your behaviors?
I don't think so, because I got really used to hiding my feelings. Whenever I was 11, I had an eating disorder from 11 to 19. So I got really good at hiding that. And so I always wanted to have this image of being this perfect daughter, the perfect grandchild, you know. So I never really told my grandma. My grandma found out on the way to a speech. My very first speech I ever gave was I was 19, and my psychiatrist, my eating disorder psychiatrist, had talked me into doing a speech at a high school in Charleston. And he told me, he's like, I want you to talk about the rape. So for 2 years, no one knew about it. And I ended up asking the guy, like 2 days later, he worked at a gas station, and I went there and I asked him, I said, why did you do that? And he's like,
2 days
do what?
after the event took place, you went in the gas, okay.
Yes. I asked him, I said, why? Because we always hung out there. And I said, why did you do that? And he just laughed it off like it was nothing. And he's like, you know, you enjoyed it. Like, it was like he normalized what he'd done. Like, there was no shame, there was no regret. And it took me until about 9 years ago to actually get an apology for it.
Okay.
So, but whenever that had happened, it's just, I did my speech, and I told my grandma on the way to Charleston, I was like, I have something I need to tell you before we get here, and I tell 200 other strangers, there's something that you need to know.
So you were going to talk about this in your speech, and
yes.
So you wanted to mention it to your grandmother.
Yes, because my grandma is the one who raised me.
Okay. How did she respond to that?
She was a little shooken up, very shooken up. She started crying immediately, and she was like, I'm just sorry, why didn't you say anything before? And I told her, and even though I had had boyfriends and I had had sex with other people in between those 2 years, it just, the way it was taken from me, it was just your first. You know, no one ever forgets their first time. And it was just, I felt, a lot of people, I feel like whenever someone's raped, I've seen rape cases where they go to, where they're totally introvert, they turn away from people, and I kind of went the other direction. I was very promiscuous. It was kind of like, I've already lost it, there's nothing worth holding on to it doesn't mean anything, whatever. So I kind of got into that, and it pushed me into making a lot of very bad decisions with men. It led to me having relationships with men I had no business having relationships with. I had a few encounters with married men. It gave me a very shallow outlook on my relationships, and sex did not mean as much to me as it would have if I didn't lose my virginity that way.
So when did you start dealing with that part, the promiscuous, and realizing that I don't have to continue in this lifestyle, that there's a better way of coping with what you have experienced?
Well, that kind of led me to, I started doing drugs, and I started drinking really bad, and I lost my family's trust. I lost access to our other, we had a beach house, and I would always go down to the beach and party, and the friends I hung out with, they were not really good friends, and they would leave me down there, and I would be forced to walk. Like, I had to walk one night. I walked 30 blocks from a club to our beach house and slept on the porch, just so I knew I'd be safe. And it was just the company that I kept. It was the lifestyle I was living, and I hated the way that I made my family feel, especially my grandma, because it really tore her up. And I decided, you know, I was not going to drink anymore. I was not going to do that stuff anymore. I wanted to, you know, start living right. And I got really big into my faith, and that was a huge part. And I started to take responsibility. that was my biggest thing is, I went to the PD Coalition, I started volunteering, and I started to use my story to help people instead of use it as something that I saw to be embarrassed of. Because my first speech I almost did not go because I was very embarrassed of my story, and I was like, why does all this stuff keep happening to me? I went through murder, child abuse, rape, and then I had relationship abuse, domestic violence. I was like, I just don't understand why all this stuff keeps happening to me. And so I found a lot of refuge with them, and they had me see my story and what had happened to me in a different way. And I've used my story, and I've helped a lot of people, and I've shared it, and I've met amazing people. I'm able to respond to the hospital and be that first line for people whenever they are raped. I'm the first person that responds there.
I tell you, our experiences can be used to benefit other people. When we go through it the right way and get the help that we need, we can begin to help other people, because I've never been violated in that way. So there are people that you can help that I'm not able to help. And so lots of times people want to know and talk to someone that have walked that walk, that has been through, that truly understand what they're going through. So I just thank you for the transparency and being open about what you experienced, because like I said earlier, I know that you're helping a lot of people and going to continue to help some people. But I have a few questions for you.
Yes.
You stated that you got involved with PD Coalition. Did someone refer you to them, or did you seek them out on your own?
Well, I sought them out on my own, and I knew there was an organization. Whenever I was 18 during this time, I kind of had talked to the old director about, my experience and stuff. And at that point, I was still embarrassed of who I was and what I stood for and my purpose. And so she wanted me to do some classes and come talk to her. And then I kind of chickened out because I was just like, it's too much stuff. I don't really want to get back into it. But then she was like, that's whenever my psychiatrist, he really helped me a lot and got me to open up about my childhood. And I found out a lot of stuff. Like when I was 10 years old, my paternal step-grandpa, he would still wipe me and go with me to the bathroom, and he would give me baths and stuff, and I didn't know that was, molestation.
At the age of 10?
At 10, yep. I had started puberty at 10. And I had always been, kind of filled out since first grade. And so I did not know what that meant, but I knew it was wrong. And he kind of helped me dig a whole lot deeper into the issues that I'd experienced to pull all that out to where I didn't need to be embarrassed. I needed to tell my story and uplift people and not use it as, a jailhouse sentence in my own self.
Absolutely. Now, what age were you when you began to experience the eating disorder?
I was 11.
11. And so the first, I would say, assault you experienced was at the age of 10, would you say? Okay. And then the following year, you began to have this eating disorder. And that's typically what happens when folks have been violated. They, can begin to question their body and begin to just, some folks not even like themselves and punish themselves in several ways to escape from the trauma that they have experienced. So my question to you now is, you mentioned that you had this abuse and you became promiscuous and also had a drug addiction. Which one did you deal with first? Did you deal with the drug addiction first, or did you deal with the abuse?
I started with the alcohol. I stopped drinking alcohol. I stopped hanging out with those friends, and I met a really nice guy at the time, and that happened in July. And that December, I was pregnant with my first daughter. She was planned. And that was one of the relationships that I got into that turned very dark very fast. And that lasted for 3 years. So I went right back. I kind of had built myself back up, and then he kind of tore it back down. And so then it was just, my life's been a lot of putting the bricks back up and tearing it back down and putting them back up. And so I feel like the alcohol started it. Definitely the promiscuity that ended. I didn't want to be seen as that girl anymore. I didn't want to be shackled to my past anymore and have all that negativity and that trauma come out the way it did, and people perceive me that way. Because I did. I turned into a complete monster, and I didn't like who I saw in the mirror. I didn't like that person anymore, and I was not headed anywhere but jail or the graveyard. That was it.
Did you end up getting in any type of legal trouble when you were battling all these?
No. Mostly because my grandma knew a lot of people that kept me out of trouble, but there was times that I should have gotten in a lot more trouble than I did, and there's a lot of things that I feel like I would not ever do again. And I tore up, I broke families apart, and I had this I didn't care attitude. It was Manessa love Manessa. I didn't care about anybody else, and I had really nothing to live for except that day. And I did what I wanted, and there was no boundaries. My life had no boundaries, and so it was out of control.
So how did you stated that you had a daughter?
I did.
How did that change your life in any way?
Oh gosh, I'm gonna cry. When I found out I was pregnant with her, it was just like I got a third chance, I guess I could say, a third chance at life. And it was like, I've been given a clean slate to where now I have to be someone's role model, and
right.
I have this child that I'm bringing into the world, and I have to mold him or her, because I didn't know it's a girl yet, and I have to mold him or her. I said, and all children are gifts from God, and I felt like he was giving me like almost like homework, kind of like this is your new project, not the alcohol, not this, not that. And she was the reason that I ended up forgiving my dad for murdering my mom and kidnapping me. It was just, I did not want my children to ever look in their past and let their past run their future. I now have 3 little girls, and I never wanted my kids in the future to have to look at my story and not learn something from it or see that I didn't grow from it.
So there's a multitude of things that's going on. You mentioned that, your dad had murdered your mom.
Mm-hmm.
How old were you at that time?
I was 4.
4. And so were you aware of what was going on at the time?
Yeah, it happened in front of me and my brother. We watched it.
Okay.
And I was drug out of the house by my hair and thrown into the car, and he drove us around all night, and he finally turned himself in the next morning, and he had been drinking. It was a very disturbing time, and that was kind of the first time the trauma had started with me. That's kind of what put the events in. And then whenever I was 2, I guess what started my whole timeline with trauma and with everything was whenever I was 2 years old, my real grandpa, he had murdered a lady in North Carolina on the way to my 2nd birthday party, and he was bringing her to Dillon, and he got caught in North Carolina before he made it to my birthday.
Okay, so growing up, there was a lot of things from 2 years of age to 4, the 10, the 11 to 17, just multiple things that have occurred in your life. And I tell you, you don't look like what you've been through. I can surely tell you that.
Every speech I give, someone says, "You don't look like your story."
You don't look like what you've been through, and that's truly a blessing. You are an amazing woman.
Thank you.
I can tell you that. But also, I want you to help some folks that are either looking at this live or gonna go back and view this video. What would you say to those that may have had some of these, adverse childhood experiences that never shared it with anyone, that keeping this stuff bottled up inside of them and acting out in ways that they may not even understand that is tied to their upbringings? What would you say to those individuals?
I would say that, one, it's not your fault. I put a lot of blame, a lot of the blame that I felt and a lot of the child abuse came from psychologically. My dad's mom, she told me that the reason that my dad killed my mom was because I was the baby and they argued about bills and I was expensive. So from the age of 5 until 15, I believe that I was the reason my dad had murdered my mom. And so from the age of 4 to 10, they had visitation with us. And she would tell me on visitations they were very abusive and they were very verbally abusive. And
When you say they, you're talking about
my dad's mom and my stepdad,
okay.
or my step-grandpa. They were very verbally abusive, and they started where they would do things like tickle me until I peed in my pants, and I would have to sit in it. They'd tell me I was a bad girl, and they wouldn't let me and my brother, we were very, very close. We still are. And they wouldn't let us like sleep in the same bed together. When I got older, I had to sleep with my grandpa, and my grandma slept with my brother. And I got really, really afraid of thunderstorms and stuff like that. And so a lot of the fear that got instilled in us was from them, and it was just, they didn't do anything to help the situation. It was just, I know they were angry, they were embarrassed by their son. They just took a lot of that resentment out on me and my brother. Okay. And so one of the main things I would tell someone that has a story similar to me is, it's not your fault. And the biggest thing was I found out that my story helped people, and what I went through, I had a purpose. There was a reason I wasn't killed the same day my mother was. There was a reason me and my brother were found. There's a reason that everything I've gone through, I've survived it, and I've came out the other end. Whether it's, shattered and broken, still parts of me are still on the other side. So I would tell people, I found a lot of faith in God, and I got really big in my faith, and I honestly feel like He is the reason I am still here and my purpose. And that was my biggest thing, is trying to find my purpose, where I fit in the world, why I'm a part of this world.
Okay. So you can look into the camera there when you speak to them. So you said that you would tell them that it's not their fault.
Yes.
And that is important, because there are some adults, you have children and even grandchildren for that matter, that still blame themselves of some things that they have experienced. So, this is a witness for you all that you can overcome this and realize that it had nothing to do with you at all. Mm-hmm. Other folks, they take advantage of vulnerable people, and that they should seek to get some help. Would you say? Reach out to PD Coalition, or someone that could help steer you in the right direction.
Yes.
And there's absolutely nothing to be ashamed of.
No, that was my biggest thing, was I was very ashamed. And I would say, if you can't talk to someone in your family, find a hotline, find an agency like PD Coalition that has counseling. And I would say, make sure you understand that it's okay to be embarrassed of your situation, but don't let that steer you down a path that's going to be very dark like I did. I'm very, very, very thankful and very blessed to have came out the way I did on the other side, and to come out as strong as I am today.
Absolutely. Judging
everything that I've been through.
Now, you have 3 daughters, right?
Yes.
So how have this shaped your parenting skills with your 3 daughters?
So I'm very protective.
Very protective. Understandably so.
Oh gosh, yes. My biggest fear is something's going to happen to my kids. And so I've been trying to finish a book, because I want my kids to hear everything from me. I want them to know, I don't want to leave anything out. I'm a very open person. When I give my speeches, I'm very blunt and honest. I share and bear every part of me. There's nothing I want to keep secret, because I don't know what part of my story someone needs to hear.
Right, absolutely.
So that's why I'm very transparent, and I feel like my kids are going to know that, one, they only need themselves to survive. They need to depend on themselves for one, and they need to love themselves. Because one of the main reasons I had an eating disorder was I didn't have any self-esteem. I had no self-confidence. I got picked on from 1st grade into 5th grade. I was teased a lot about not having a mom, and a lot of people found out, what my dad had done. And my maiden name was Ivy, so they called me Poison Ivy. And unfortunately, my oldest daughter, she's had to deal with bullying. And I told her, I was like, don't ever bully someone, because you don't know what they go home to.
Right, absolutely.
And I had a very good upbringing as far as, materialistic things. I went to a very prestigious private school, and I had a lot of really good opportunities. A lot of people became very envious of me, because they felt like my life, I didn't deserve the life that I had because of what had happened to me. And it's made me make my kids realize that they need to be strong in their faith. And very happy to say that my kids get dedicated to our church on Sunday.
Yay.
Yes, they're so excited. They've learned how to turn to God and not turn to other things. And we've talked about stuff. And I just recently told them last year about their grandparents. So they have questions, and I want them to be honest, and I want them to ask me questions. And so I'm very honest with my kids, and they're all girls. So of course, we don't talk about boys, and I want them to see how strong I am and know that they have that same strength in them too. They can't be judged by what happened to me. Right. And I want my kids to not have a childhood they have to recover from like me. That's my biggest thing.
And I can just imagine you're an amazing mom. So you work with the volunteer with PD Coalition, correct? And so with your church, do you do any speaking at the church or?
No, not yet. Not yet. I do speeches for PD Coalition, and I do some Facebook Lives on my own.
Wonderful.
A lot of people, it's a different story every time. I guess it's the way I tell it. And I do domestic violence awareness. That's a big month for me.
Do you mind sharing with someone that may not have the courage yet to get in touch with PD Coalition, but may be interested in following and listening to you more on your Facebook page or with your public speaking? Do you mind sharing that information?
Yes. So my Facebook is just my name, Manessa Hardin, Hardin, and I think it's my 3 little girls on my cover photo, a picture of me and my husband. And if y'all send me a friend request, send me a private message, and I will do the best I can to help you, be there for you, be supportive with you. I still have people from PD Coalition at the hospital that I've responded to that I still keep in touch with, and I check on periodically just to make sure they're doing okay.
But don't stop there.
No.
That's just to build you up, to walk through the door and get the abundance of support that you need. But until you get to that point, she's extending, her arms to you all to, reach out to her through Facebook so she can provide you that encouragement and support until you can get into and get the professional help that you need. Yes. And of course, continue if you want to with that relationship that you form. But it's important that we get that professional help too.
PD Coalition also has a Facebook page.
Okay, PD Coalition.
And if you would just type in PD Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Assault, you'll see our Facebook page.
So follow them as well.
We also have a PDC Talks podcast that is available. It addresses health, safety, and awareness.
Okay, wonderful.
And discuss different topics there. I did not give our crisis line telephone number, which is 843-774-0898. But one thing that I wanted to be sure to talk about briefly is Denim Day.
Denim Day.
Some people may know what Denim Day is. Some may not.
Like me. I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is.
Denim Day this year is April 28th. What Denim Day is, in 1998, a young lady in Europe was going to take driving lessons. The driver, who was a 45-year-old married male, took her to a location, pulled her out of the car. She had on tight jeans and was able to remove one leg out of the jeans and sexually assaulted her. When she reported it to her parents, the gentleman was arrested. He was found guilty, but he appealed it. And the judge stated it could not have been non-consensual because she had on very tight jeans, and you cannot pull tight jeans off of someone's body. So all the mothers got together, they protested, and thus Denim Day was written up. Okay. So that is why we encourage people on April 28th of this year, wear your jeans.
I have mine on. And thank you for sharing that. That's some good information to know. Denim Day, April 28th, wear your denim jeans.
To show support.
To support this worthwhile cause and let's prevent future assaults from occurring.
And we're also inviting males to do that. It's not just a female event. Yes. It is a male event where fathers your brothers, your uncles, your grandparents. You have females in your family.
Mm-hmm.
Don't think sexual assault is a female issue. Sexual assault is also a male issue.
Yes.
We don't often think of males being sexually assaulted, but males can be sexually assaulted as well.
Yes. And do you have any programs for the men or boys that have been sexually assaulted?
We do. We operate a Durant Center. Durant Center, we have one in Florence, one in Hartsville, and one in Sumter County. The Durant Center is a center for children. They provide family advocacy and victim advocacy. They also prepare for court, and they assist children to get through their crisis, and they assist the family to help them. Our individual crisis centers, we do work with male victims. They get the same that a female victim would receive. We have trauma counselors available that assist, and we do not discriminate because you are a male. Oh no, you could not have been beaten up by your wife. Oh no, you could not have been sexually assaulted. We support advocacy for all genders.
Wonderful. So I tell you, this is a fine time to talk about, this very important issue, not just during the month of April, but we need to normalize this conversation every day. We need to let kids know that it's okay to talk about these issues. And if you've been threatened, that no, just open up and tell a trusted adult, an individual that can get you the help that you need. I have one final question for you. I just wanted to know, how did you ever go back and repair some of those relationships that were damaged?
I did. I tried to. The first relationship that I mended back was I have a little sister. She's 12, and I did not know I had a sister until I reached out to my grandparents and the ones that had abused me when I was a child, and I tried to open the door back with them, and we ended up at dinner in Fayetteville, and they would do random stuff to me and my brother. Like, they would put their fingers in my back, the small of my back, to make me sit up straight at the table because my step-grandpa was military. And they would do stuff like, couldn't have my elbows on the table, stuff like that. So me and my 3 daughters and my now husband, we went to dinner with them, and I noticed that my grandmother started doing that stuff to my oldest. And it was kind of like I couldn't put her in the situation, and so we got up from dinner. I paid the bill. We didn't even get our food. I went ahead and paid for the food, and we left, and I haven't spoken to them since. Then I reached out to my father, and because I knew that I wanted to have a relationship with my sister, and I never wanted to put my sister in a situation where she would have to choose between her sister and her dad.
Right.
And although I missed out those years of being someone's daughter, she gets to. And I would never take that away from her. So me and my dad, I forgave him, and we actually met on the 21st anniversary that had happened. So I was how old? This was 4 years ago. So how old am I now? So 2017. It was June 23rd of 2017, which was, she was killed in 94. I'm horrible at math. So however many years that is, to the exact day, the last day that I saw my dad was June 23rd. And then the first day that I'd seen him since I was 4 was June 23rd. We met at a gas station, and I introduced him to girls and my husband, and it was just like, the past never happened, and I was able to talk to him, and he told me a lot of stuff about myself I did not know, and about the situation and why he did what he did. And so I was able to mend that relationship. And me and my dad, we have a great relationship now. My brother and my aunt, my grandma passed away 4 years ago. So my brother and my aunt, they don't have the same relationship with him. So whenever he comes to the house, I let them know, because I try to have respect for both parties, because not everyone's where I'm at with everything that's happened to me. And so I've mended that relationship, and the guy that raped me actually sold me my first handgun So I was able to, I thought that was just very ironic. He actually worked at the gun store when I went to get it. And, you know, I'm able to walk by him now, and it's almost like an unspoken thing we know, but I don't let what happened to me ever affect me. And my kids know who he is and what happened. And, well, my oldest does. My 4 and 5-year-old, they don't know. But my 8-year-old, she does. And I try to make her very aware of her surroundings and situations and stuff. And me and my child's father, we still have a very rocky relationship to this day. I forgave him for myself, but there's still a lot of stuff that, you know, he hasn't matured like I have. And it's just a situation that I really hope gets better, because I hope that, you know, we can get along for my daughter's sake. And I think that's all my relationships. And then, of course, you know, the married men, when I went through that phase, I reached out to the wives and I apologized. And fortunately, you know, one of them, the relationship failed and he's now remarried. And the other one I felt like got stronger. And we're actually, you know, we talk today. We're still friends. We're friends on Facebook. And, you know, when we see each other, we're very cordial to each other. So I'm glad that I was able to salvage every relationship except my grandparents and my child's father. I'm glad I was able to salvage at least 90% of the relationships that I messed up and I damaged or damaged me.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I tell you, I'm going to have you back on the show, because there's some follow-up questions with not child sexual abuse, but child abuse in general that I want to be able to speak with the audience about as well. But I just want to thank you again for being transparent. Thank you, Miss Glenda, for accepting the invitation. Again, thank you, Miss Carolyn Blue, for turning me on to these beautiful ladies here. So I just want to thank the viewers for tuning in. I hope there was something that was said that you can just, you know, think about and decide, you know, what are you going to do if you have experienced any adverse childhood experiences, and how you plan to deal with it. Do you plan to continue to struggle in those areas? Because it just doesn't affect you emotionally. It affects pretty much every aspect of your being. And you deserve so much more than that. And there's more to you than those experiences. You know, we have so much potential. And it's important that we get the help that we need so we could, you know, fulfill our purpose and live out our fullest potential in life. So I know there's something that Manessa have said that have truly been a blessing to you. Don't forget about Denim Day that's coming up. You know, don't forget about PD Coalition. She provided the location. I'm going to put it again in the comment section along with the 2 numbers that you can call in case you need some assistance. So, with that being said, is there any final words that you 2 ladies want to say to the audience on today before we end the show?
I would just like to say, every time I hear Manessa's story, it encourages me to keep doing what I need to do to help victims.
Right. And I tell you, it definitely motivated me to another level to continue what I'm doing as well, connecting people and building these strong communities. So you have blessed me. Both of you ladies, you all have blessed me tremendously. Do you have any final words, Manessa, that you would like to share with the audience on today?
I would just say, you know, if y'all are going through anything, feel free to reach out to me anytime. I'm available anytime. If I don't get right back to you, I will. And like I said, anything that happens to you that's out of your control is not your fault. And you can't be a victim to yourself. You have to be a survivor. You survived whatever it is that you went through, and you have a friend in me, and I'm here to help you get through the other side of trauma and abuse.
Yes. So I'm just going to give you a few announcements, and we're going to end today's show. Remember, the pandemic is still out there. Continue to wear your mask. You know, research about the vaccines. I believe in the vaccines. I believe that God has equipped man to create things that can make our life better. So I'm fully vaccinated, and
I am.
Got your 2nd dosage today.
Yeah.
So, you know, don't get too relaxed. Keep yourself safe. Wear your mask. wash your hands constantly. And I also want to make mention of I read in the paper that I think it's the 25th of this month, the sheriff's office. If I'm not mistaken, the 25th or the 24th, but I can put this in the comment section as well. They're going to be collecting opioids, unused medications. Have you read about that?
Right.
So you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Right.
If you have any unused narcotics, please turn those medicines in. We want to keep them out the hands of people. You know, folks are accidentally overdosing in record numbers. So we want to discard those medications properly. So turn those medications in, if you will. Let's keep people safe. This is a community issue. Things that happen in your house affect the entire community. So let's just be responsible in any and every way that we can to make our county one of the strongest and safest counties there is, not only in the state of South Carolina, but also throughout the United States. Thank you for tuning in to your favorite community talk show. Let's talk about it. Until the next time, be safe, and I love you. So he's going to play a little bit of music, then we're going to end. Oh my God, you ladies have blessed me. Really, you have. I tell you, I want a copy of the book.
Yeah,
keep writing that book. Keep writing that book.
It's a process, man.
Yes,
because it's just a lot, and it's like I learned more from my dad, so it's like, okay, I'm gonna go back and change this.
Right.
So
many victims that we work with end up writing. That's one of the things that we encourage is journaling. And in fact, I have a couple of books at my office that our staff who are victims have written.
Okay. I guess my son don't know how to end the thing. Tracy, can you help him? I guess they want you to dance for real.